A single stone can weigh more than 100 elephants, yet be cut with impossible precision. These megalithic structures are a global puzzle, and by the end of this exploration, you will see human history through an entirely new lens. Why would cultures across the world, separated by vast oceans and thousands of years, pursue the same obsessive perfection in stone? What forgotten knowledge allowed them to move mountains and carve geometry from bedrock? We are about to visit 25 of the most astonishing sites on Earth, from a pyramid that encodes celestial mathematics to a jungle scattered with perfectly round spheres. Each one challenges the story we think we know. What do you believe is waiting for us in the distant past? Its shadow at dawn is a perfect arrow pointing north. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands not just as a tomb, but as a declaration of impossible knowledge carved into the desert. To understand its mystery, we must first grasp the numbers. Over 2.3 million blocks of stone were lifted and locked into place, creating a structure that once rose 481 feet toward the sky. Many of those individual stones weigh more than a modern truck, with the largest granite beams inside weighing an almost unimaginable 80 tons. Yet this mountain of rock is not a rough pile. It is a machine of perfect angles. Its four sides are aligned to the cardinal points with an accuracy that still baffles surveyors. The error is just 3/60ths of a single degree. To put that in perspective, if you laid a giant ruler along its base, the deviation over its entire length would be less than the width of your thumb. This is not the work of guesswork. It is the work of a master surveyor who understood the earth itself. The precision only deepens when you look closer. The outer casing stones, now mostly gone, were reportedly fitted together with joints so tight you could not slide a piece of paper between them. Engineers like Christopher Dunn have noted these gaps measure roughly 1/50th of an inch, a tolerance we associate with fine optics or watchmaking, not with stonework on a colossal scale. Inside, the king's chamber houses a sarcophagus made from a single block of granite. Its interior is so precisely hollowed out that the corners are sharp and the surfaces flat, achieved with a material harder than the copper tools the builders are said to have used. Then there are the numbers hidden in its shape. The ratio of its perimeter to its height gives a close approximation of pi. The proportions of its chambers and passages seem to echo the golden ratio, a mathematical constant found throughout nature. This has led many to ask a profound question. Was its primary purpose to house a physical resting place, or was it designed as something else entirely? A geometric model of the Northern Hemisphere, a repository of lost mathematics, an energy device. The theories are as vast as the pyramid itself, but all of them start from the same undeniable fact. This structure, built over 4,500 years ago without the wheel, without iron, and without the pulley as we know it, achieves a level of craftsmanship that our modern machines would struggle to replicate. It is the ultimate foundation stone for our journey, proving that the ancient world possessed a science of stone we have yet to fully comprehend. But if the Great Pyramid represents a single, intact monument to perfection, our next site is its opposite. Puma Punku in Bolivia is a scene of utter and deliberate ruin. Here, on a windswept plateau over 2 miles above sea level, you do not find a towering structure. You find a field of shattered dreams. Enormous blocks of andesite and red sandstone, some weighing more than 100 tons, lie scattered and broken as if a celestial hammer was swung down upon them. They are not weathered by time, they look violently dismantled, yet within this chaos lies a precision so sharp it cuts through conventional history. The most famous pieces are the H-blocks, named for their distinctive shape. These are not rough stones. They are geometric modules, each with flawless right angles, razor-sharp edges, and surfaces polished to a near glass-like finish. Their faces are not just flat, they are perfectly planar. Running along them are intricate channels and notches, cut with such consistent depth and spacing that they appear to have been made by a single, giant stamping press. Archaeologists like Brian Forrester point to tiny, perfectly cylindrical drill holes found in some stones. To create such a hole in this incredibly hard stone, you would need a drill bit harder than the stone itself. In the modern world, that means industrial diamonds. This presents our first impossible puzzle. The stone used here, a type of andesite, is notoriously difficult to work. It ranks just below diamond on the hardness scale. To cut it, to polish it, to create those immaculate grooves and drill holes with the primitive copper or stone tools attributed to the Tiwanaku culture is, for all practical purposes, unthinkable. It would be like trying to carve a detailed sculpture into a car's engine block using only a butter knife. The material wins every time. Then comes the second puzzle, one of logistics. The nearest quarry for this specific andesite is over 50 miles away, across mountainous terrain. How do you transport a 100-ton block, a weight equivalent to a full-grown blue whale, for that distance without the wheel, without draft animals suited to the altitude, and without modern engineering? The conventional answers of log rollers and rope teams strain under the sheer scale and the altitude's thin air, but perhaps the most telling clue is in the design itself. Look at the interlocking channels and the modular shapes. These stones were meant to fit together like pieces of a giant, three-dimensional puzzle, locking into place without any mortar. This suggests a prefabricated system. Stones were cut to exact specifications off-site, transported, and then assembled with a builder's manual we can no longer read. This was not just stacking rocks, this was advanced, industrialized construction. So we are left standing in this high-altitude junkyard of precision, surrounded by the shattered components of a machine whose purpose we have forgotten. Was Puma Punku a temple, a gateway, or something else entirely? The violence done to it suggests it was meant to be taken apart, to be made unusable. Someone went to extraordinary lengths not just to build with impossible skill, but to ensure that what was built could never function again. The precision remains, but the reason for it is lost, leaving us with only the haunting fragments of a technology that should not exist. The scale of Puma Punku is dwarfed by what waits in Lebanon. In the Bekaa Valley stand the ruins of the Roman Temple of Jupiter, a testament to imperial might. But look below the Roman columns at the very foundation of the complex. There you will find the true mystery, a platform built from stones so large they defy all logic. This is the trilithon, 3 limestone blocks perfectly fitted into a wall over 20 feet above the ground. Each one is a mountain in itself, estimated to weigh around 800 tons. To move a single one today would require the largest mobile cranes on the planet, specialized heavy transport vehicles, and meticulously engineered roads. The ancients had none of these, yet they not only moved these behemoths, they lifted them and placed them with a precision that leaves no gap between them. The story becomes even more incredible in a nearby quarry. There rests the stone of the pregnant woman, a single block of limestone that was cut but never moved. Its estimated weight is 1,650 tons. To visualize that, imagine trying to lift 200 full-grown African elephants all at once. The mind struggles to hold the image. How do you even begin to quarry such a thing? The stone itself provides clues. Its base is perfectly flat, a feat requiring immense control to separate it from the bedrock without shattering it. Its sides are smooth, and some have a distinct raised lip or ridge along the edge, a feature noted by researchers like Graham Hancock. This is not decorative. Many engineers suggest this lip could have been part of a sophisticated gripping or lifting mechanism, a small detail hinting at a lost method of handling mass. Then comes the impossible journey. The quarry is nearly a mile from the temple site, across uneven, sloping ground. The standard explanation of log rollers and rope teams collapses under this weight. 800 tons would crush any wooden roller into pulp. The friction would be insurmountable. Even if you could somehow slide it, how do you steer it? How do you prevent it from sinking into the earth? Modern engineers are left to ponder alternatives, like a complex system of counterweights and pivots, or a theory that the stones were somehow moved on a bed of wet clay to reduce friction. But these remain theories. The physical fact is that the stones are there, placed with intention. Their placement is so audacious that even the Romans, master builders themselves, seem to regard the platform with awe. They built their temple upon it, as if constructing on a foundation laid by gods or giants. This leads to a profound question that echoes across the valley. What was here before the Romans? Did they find the remains of a much older, perhaps unimaginably ancient structure, and simply build upon its indestructible bones? Some researchers have pointed to another curious feature. The stones, when struck, produce a deep, resonant tone. This has led to speculation about acoustic properties, that the entire platform might have been designed to vibrate or amplify sound for ceremonial purposes. Whether that is true or not, the sound is a fitting metaphor. The Baalbek megaliths are a deep, resonant note from the past, a vibration of a scale and skill we can measure but cannot replicate. They stand as a silent challenge, asking us how we define the possible. A fortress of stone stands guard over the ancient Inca capital, but its walls defy every rule of construction. Sacsayhuamán is not built with rectangular bricks. Instead, its ramparts are a breathtaking mosaic of giant, irregular polygons, each stone a unique piece in a colossal, three-dimensional puzzle. Some of these blocks are larger than a room, with the most massive estimated to weigh 125 tons. Yet they are fitted together with such precision that the seams between them are virtually invisible. You cannot slide a knife blade, let alone a piece of paper, into the joints. This is polygonal masonry at its most advanced, a technique where every neighboring stone is custom, shaped to lock perfectly with the ones above, below, and beside it. The result is a wall with no straight lines, a zigzagging pattern of interlocking teeth that has endured for centuries. To understand why this is so revolutionary, you must think like an engineer facing an earthquake. A wall made of uniform blocks stacked in straight rows has a weakness. When the ground shakes, the straight seams become lines of stress, and the wall can shear apart. But a polygonal wall is different. Its complex, interlocking joints distribute seismic force in every direction. Each stone is locked in place by the unique shapes of its neighbors, creating a flexible, monolithic structure that moves as one and then settles back into place. This is not theoretical. The Spanish built their colonial structures directly on top of Inca foundations in Cusco. When major earthquakes have struck, the Spanish buildings above have often crumbled, while the ancient Inca stonework below remains unshaken. The walls of Sacsayhuamán have withstood centuries of tremors that have flattened modern architecture, a silent testament to a profound understanding of the land's power. So how was it done? How do you take granite, one of the hardest stones on Earth, and sculpt these massive, irregular blocks to fit with micrometer precision? Traditional archaeology suggests the use of stone hammers. Skilled workers would have painstakingly pounded the granite with harder stones, slowly shaping it over countless hours. It is a plausible, if almost unimaginably labor-intensive, method. However, this does not fully account for the glassy smooth finish on some surfaces or the perfect conformity of the joints. This has led to alternative theories, including a fascinating idea involving plant acids. Certain native plants in the region contain acidic compounds. The theory suggests that a paste made from these plants could have been applied to the stone surface, slightly softening the outer layer to allow for finer shaping and polishing. Whether through relentless pounding, chemical assistance, or a combination of both, the result required more than brute force. It demanded an advanced, almost intuitive knowledge of geometry, stone fracture points, and structural physics. Modern stonemasons who study the site openly express awe. They confirm that replicating this work today, even with power tools and digital modeling, would be an immense challenge. The builders of Sacsayhuamán were not just stacking rocks, they were programming resilience into the very landscape. This leads to a deeper mystery that surrounds the site. While credited to the Inca Empire, some researchers look at the scale and the style and wonder. The Inca were master organizers and brilliant engineers, but the foundational cyclopean walls of Sacsayhuamán feel different in character from other Inca sites. Could this represent the peak of Inca engineering, a unique solution forged in their imperial heartland? Or does it hint at something older? Could the Inca have found these mighty foundations already in place, built by a forgotten civilization with an even older relationship with stone, and then built upon them, inheriting and continuing a legacy of impossible precision? The walls do not answer, but their enduring silence speaks volumes. While the walls of Sacsayhuamán were built by an empire, our next structure was the work of one solitary man. In the early 20th century, in the sweltering heat of Florida, a 5-foot-tall, 100-pound Latvian immigrant named Edward Līdzkalnis began a project that would baffle engineers for generations. Working mostly at night and in complete secrecy, he single-handedly quarried, carved, and positioned over 1,100 tons of oolite coral to create what is now called Coral Castle. He claimed he had rediscovered the building secrets of the ancient Egyptians, the very principles that allowed the pyramids to be built. With only handmade tools fashioned from old car parts, he accomplished feats that modern physics struggles to explain. His central claim was that he had unlocked the secrets of weight and leverage, and even magnetism, understanding the true structure of matter in a way mainstream science had forgotten. He spoke of understanding the cosmic forces that hold the planets in their orbits, and he insisted that this knowledge was the key to moving mass. The physical evidence of his work is both whimsical and deeply unsettling. At the heart of the complex is a 9-ton stone gate carved from a single piece of rock. It is so perfectly balanced on a simple metal rod and an old truck bearing that for decades, a child could push it open with a single finger. Engineers who have examined it say achieving that balance with the tools Līdzkalnis had would require precision machining in a controlled factory environment, not a man working alone with a hacksaw and a chisel. Then there is the celestial alignment. His sculptures include a 30-ton obelisk, a massive coral telescope perfectly aligned to the North Star, and a stone table carved in the shape of Florida, with a fountain representing Lake Okeechobee. His 9-ton gate itself is said to have precise astronomical functions, tracking the sun's movements. But the most persistent question, the one that draws physicists and skeptics alike, is how he physically moved these stones. Witnesses are few, but they reported seeing him work alone. He would sometimes place his hands on a massive block and hum, as if in concentration. When asked directly how he moved the coral, he would only give a cryptic smile and say he understood the laws of weight and leverage. One of his most famous accomplishments was raising a 30-ton obelisk straight up into position. In the modern world, this requires a large crane and a crew of operators. Līdzkalnis did it by himself at night, leaving no notes or diagrams behind. This has fueled endless speculation. Did he rediscover a form of acoustic levitation, using sound to cancel weight? Was he manipulating magnetic fields in a way we do not yet understand? Or was he, as some suggest, simply a brilliant and exceptionally strong man who used clever, mundane techniques that we have overcomplicated in our search for mystery? The truth is, we may never know. He took his secrets with him, but Coral Castle forces a profound question upon us. If one man in the modern era, with no formal education, could allegedly rediscover and apply principles of mass manipulation to build with such precision. What does that say about the ancient builders? It suggests that the knowledge required for these megalithic wonders may not be lost in the distant past, but simply waiting to be remembered. It blurs the line between ancient mystery and potential rediscovery, challenging the very timeline of human capability. High on a mountainside in Peru's Sacred Valley, 6 giants stand frozen in time. The fortress of Ollantaytambo is crowned by a terrace where colossal slabs of pink granite, each weighing around 50 tons, are lined up like silent sentinels gazing down the valley. Their presence here is a logistical paradox that makes the mind reel. The quarry for this distinctive stone is not on this mountain. It is on the opposite side of the valley, 4 miles away, and crucially, 3,000 feet lower in elevation. This means the builders did not just move these monoliths across a flat plain. They had to drag them up the steep, rugged face of a mountain. To appreciate the scale of this task, imagine trying to pull a fully loaded semi-truck up a near-vertical slope using only ropes and manpower across a river and over miles of uneven terrain. It seems an almost theatrical display of effort, a statement of power carved into the landscape. Experts who have studied the site point to the remnants of an intricate system that hints at the method. A network of precisely cut ramps, some with stone paving to prevent slippage, winds up the mountainside. Canals were dug to possibly divert water, creating a slippery surface of mud to reduce friction for sliding the stones, or perhaps to float them on rafts during certain segments of the journey. The coordination required is staggering. Thousands of workers would have had to move in perfect unison, inching each block forward with levers, ropes, and raw determination. One misstep, one snapped rope could mean catastrophe. Along the presumed transport route lies the most poignant clue, a block known as the Tired Stone. It is even larger than the 6 on the terrace, a behemoth that was abandoned mid-journey, forever resting where the builder's strength or will gave out. It is a frozen moment of ambition, a testament to the sheer human cost of such an endeavor. When you examine the 6 giants that did make it, the mystery deepens beyond transportation. The stones are fitted together with the same incredible precision seen at Sacsayhuamán, with complex polygonal joints and surfaces smoothed to a fine finish. Tool marks on some unfinished sections show both pounding from stone hammers and curious, shallow grooves that some researchers suggest could be from a yet unknown cutting technique. The purpose of this monumental effort was dual. Ollantaytambo served as both a formidable fortress and a sacred temple, with its terraces and walls aligned to capture the solstice sun. This leads to a haunting question that hangs in the thin mountain air. Why was it never finished? The conventional history points to the Spanish conquest, a violent interruption that scattered the Inca builders. But looking at the scale, the tired stone, and the sheer audacity of the project, another possibility whispers from the stones themselves. Could this have been a much older site that the Inca were attempting to restore or complete, a work begun in a forgotten age and halted by a cataclysm long before the Spanish ever arrived? The sentinels on the terrace offer no answer, only the silent, imposing proof that someone believed moving mountains was not a metaphor but a direct instruction. Isolation magnifies mystery to an almost unbearable degree. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, is a speck of volcanic rock in the vast emptiness of the Pacific, over 2,000 miles from the nearest continent. On its shores, nearly 900 stone giants stand or lie fallen, their blank eyes turned away from the ocean they crossed to stare eternally inland. The Moai are not just statues, they are a society's entire identity, its ancestors and its authority, carved from the living rock of the Ronoroku crater, and then somehow moved across miles of rugged landscape to coastal platforms called ahu. The average statue weighs 14 tons, as much as 2 large elephants. but in the quarry itself rests El Gigant, an unfinished colossus still attached to the bedrock. It is estimated to weigh 270 tons. If completed and moved, it would have been the largest monolithic human figure ever created on Earth. This presents a triple puzzle of impossible scale, quarried from soft volcanic tuff, transported without wheels or large animals, and erected on stone platforms with exacting care. How was it done? For years, the dominant theory was that the statues walked. Teams of islanders, using ropes to rock the Moai side to side, could theoretically have shuffled the giants across the island. This captivating idea, popularized in documentaries, has largely been set aside by archaeologists like Terry Hunt. The evidence on the ground, the wear patterns on the ancient roads, suggests a different method. The current consensus points to a system of parabolic rocking, by using a sturdy wooden sledge or cradle underneath the statue, and teams pulling with ropes from the front while others used levers to pivot the base from behind. The Moai could be rocked forward in a controlled, incremental procession. This was not a casual stroll. It was a slow, deliberate, and immensely dangerous ballet of physics and human coordination, moving a fragile, multi-ton piece of art across 11 miles of uneven terrain. The carving itself was an act of profound precision. The volcanic tuff of Rono-Roroku is relatively soft when first quarried, allowing detailed work with stone hand tools. But the consistency of the work is staggering. Each Moai, though possessing individual traits, follows a strict artistic canon with elongated noses, strong brows, and elongated ears. Many have detailed carvings on their backs representing symbolic tattoos or clan markings. Then there are the Punku, the giant cylindrical top-knots made of red scoria stone from a separate quarry. These massive stones, some weighing 10 tons or more, were then lifted and balanced atop the erected Moai on the Ahu. The Ahu platforms themselves are feats of engineering, built with fitted stonework without mortar, perfectly level to support the immense weight. To follow the journey of a single Moai is to trace a society's ultimate expression. Teams of master carvers would first outline the statue on the quarry wall, then painstakingly chip it free, leaving a keel of rock along its back for stability during transport. Once freed, it was carefully lowered down the quarry slope using earthen ramps and ropes. Then the long communal pull began, a project that could take a community months. Upon arrival at the Ahu, the statue had to be raised. Using a clever ramp of stones and a system of levers, the Moai was inched upward until it stood vertical on the platform, its eyes then inlaid with white coral and obsidian to finally see. This entire process, repeated hundreds of times, required not just labor but an entire island's resources, a focused devotion of food, timber, and human energy. And this is where the mystery turns tragic. The same society that achieved this monolithic wonder is famously linked to its own decline. The consensus among researchers suggests that the intensive statue construction, coupled with the arrival of invasive species, led to severe deforestation and resource depletion. The loss of trees meant no more logs for transport, no more canoes for deep-sea fishing. Society fractured. The statue cult collapsed and the Moai were toppled in periods of conflict. So we are left with a haunting, reflective question on this remote shore. What drove this isolated society to pour its entire being into this singular, island-wide project of stone expression? Was it pure ancestor worship, a display of competitive power between clans, or a profound spiritual need to make a permanent mark against the overwhelming vastness of the sea? The knowledge of how they moved the giants was not lost in a single cataclysm, but faded as the social order that demanded it unraveled. The Moai today are a breathtaking monument not just to what humans can build, but to the precarious balance between our grandest ambitions and the world that sustains them. Beneath the turquoise waves off Japan's southernmost island lies a riddle carved in stone. The Yonaguni monument rests 80 feet underwater, a sprawling complex of terraces, sharp platforms, and colossal steps that look for all the world like a sunken city. Divers swim through what appears to be a grand staircase, past monolithic blocks with perfect 90-degree corners, and alongside a towering structure that some call the pyramid. One formation even bears a striking resemblance to a carved human face. This is not a shipwreck. It is a landscape that challenges the very boundary between nature and human artistry. The debate surrounding it is as deep as the waters that conceal it. On one side, geologists like Robert Schoch point to the bedrock itself, a sedimentary sandstone that naturally fractures along flat plains. The powerful currents of the region, he argues, could have sculpted these seemingly architectural features over millennia, a spectacular example of natural architecture. The forces of water over immense spans of time can create astonishing geometry, yet when you examine the details, the natural explanation begins to strain. Researchers like Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist who has studied the site for decades, point to features that seem to defy random erosion. There are twin monoliths that look like placed pillars. There are narrow, parallel channels cut into the rock that show a consistency not typical of chaotic water flow. Most compelling are the sheer, vertical faces that drop straight down from flat terraces, forming clean, angular corners that nature rarely produces with such repetitive precision. The site's layout itself feels intentional, with what looks like a processional road, plazas, and even a stadium-like structure. To understand the scale of the mystery, we must consider time. Sea levels have not always been this high. For this structure to be man-made and above water, it would have had to be built during the last ice age, when vast amounts of water were locked in glaciers. That places its construction at over 10,000 years ago, a time when mainstream history tells us humans were simple hunter-gatherers, not builders of submerged megalithic complexes. This timeline is the heart of the enigma. If human hands shaped Yonaguni, it rewrites our understanding of prehistoric capability in the Pacific. Look at the terraced formations. They bear an uncanny, haunting resemblance to the step pyramids of ancient Mesopotamia, like the ziggurat of Ur or the first tiers of pyramid construction in Central America. The parallel is not in ornamentation, but in fundamental design philosophy, the concept of creating a monumental, ascending platform. This raises a profound and almost dizzying question. Could the Yonaguni monument be a remnant of a lost chapter, a real-world Atlantis, not of myth, but of a forgotten coastal civilization whose lands were gradually consumed by the rising seas at the end of the Ice Age? The site does not offer easy answers. It exists in a tantalizing middle ground, a place where geology and potential history collide. Perhaps it is a breathtaking natural formation that our pattern-seeking minds insist on seeing as a city. Or perhaps it is the opposite, a genuine, drowned metropolis that nature has since claimed. Its right angles and stairways a silent testament to a world that vanished beneath the waves. To dive at Yonaguni is to swim through a waking dream of deep time, where every carved-looking edge asks us how much of our past is still hidden, waiting in the dark, quiet places of the world. A silent army of granite stands frozen in formation on the coast of Brittany. The Carnac alignments are not a circle, nor a fortress, but something far more enigmatic. Over 3,000 individual standing stones arranged in near-perfect parallel, rows that stretch across the landscape for miles. To walk among them is to move through a vast, open-air diagram drawn in stone, a feeling of walking through a colossal grid designed by giants. The sheer number is staggering, and each one, known as a menhir, was quarried, transported, and erected by a Neolithic society over 5,000 years ago, between 4,500 and 3,300 BC. This was not a quick project. It was a sustained, generational effort that transformed the very fabric of the land. The precision lies not in intricate carvings, but in the overwhelming intention of the layout. The rows are remarkably straight, maintained over vast distances, and the stones within each row are carefully graded. As you walk from one end of an alignment to the other, the stones gradually decrease in height, creating a deliberate visual perspective that draws the eye toward a specific point, often a burial mound or a circular enclosure at the row's end. This grading required forethought and a master plan, a blueprint held not on parchment but in the collective memory of the builders. Archaeoastronomers, scientists who study ancient astronomy, have long studied these silent sentinels. One leading theory suggests the alignments functioned as a sophisticated astronomical calendar. The rows may have been positioned to frame the rising sun at the solstices or the equinoxes, or to track the more complex cycles of the moon. A priest or astronomer standing at a specific tumulus, a large earthen burial mound associated with the site, could have used the aligned stones as sight lines to predict celestial events with remarkable accuracy. This knowledge would have been power, allowing the community to mark the seasons for planting and harvest, and to synchronize their rituals with the cosmos. Another, more speculative theory posits that the stones could have acted as a primitive seismic detector. The ground in this region is crisscrossed with fault lines. Some researchers suggest that the precise placement of the stones, perhaps on specially prepared ground or with specific foundations, might have made them sensitive to subtle vibrations in the earth, serving as an early warning system for tectonic shifts. Whether tracking stars or tremors, the engineering feat itself is humbling. The Carnac complex is divided into three major groupings, each with its own character. The Mainek alignments contain over 1,100 stones in 11 converging rows. Just to the east, the Camario alignments continue the pattern with 10 rows, leading toward a large stone circle. Further still, the Kaleskan group presents 13 shorter rows, ending at a now ruined cromlech, a circular stone setting. Scattered amongst these are the solemn dolmens, stone table tombs, and the great tumuli, artificial hills covering communal resting places. The societal implication is profound. To execute a project of this scale and duration required more than just willing hands. It demanded a highly organized, stratified society with a shared, compelling vision. There must have been surveyors to lay out the lines, quarry masters to oversee extraction, logistics coordinators to manage transport, and a spiritual or political authority with the power to direct this labor for generations. The food, shelter, and tools for hundreds, perhaps thousands of workers had to be consistently provided. This suggests a stable, prosperous, and deeply unified culture, one that encoded its understanding of the universe and its relationship to the ancestors directly into the landscape. So as the wind whispers through these granite rows today, we are left to ponder the message. This was not a monument meant to be entered like a temple or defended like a fort. It was a monument meant to be read like a map of time itself. What profound truth about their world, about cycles of life, death, and rebirth, did these Neolithic farmers feel was so important that they spent centuries planting it, stone by stone, into the earth? The alignments offer no written answer, only the enduring question, etched in granite and aligned to the eternal movements of the sky. The rose-red cliffs of Petra hold a secret not built but revealed. Al-Kosne, the Treasury, is a masterwork of subtraction. 130 feet of ornate classical facade was not assembled stone by stone, but painstakingly hollowed from a single, living mountain of sandstone. Every column, statue, and urn was already inside the rock, waiting for sculptors to remove everything that was not the treasury. This is reverse engineering on a breathtaking scale, and it demanded a radical approach. The Nabatean artisans did not start from the ground up. They began their work at the very top of the cliff. This critical decision was born of harsh necessity. By carving downward, they could control the removal of rock and prevent catastrophic collapses onto the workers and the delicate structures taking shape below. It was a method that allowed zero room for major error. You cannot glue a piece of stone back onto the mountain. Every strike of the chisel was a permanent commitment, a step further into a design that had to exist perfectly in the master sculptor's mind long before the first chip of rock fell away. Scholars of the Nabatean civilization marvel at this fusion. The architectural style is distinctly Hellenistic, with its Corinthian capitals and triangular pediments, suggesting knowledge of or contact with the wider Greco-Roman world. Yet the technique was purely local, born from an intimate understanding of this specific sandstone, its grain, its hardness, and how it would fracture under the tool. The process itself was a symphony of precision. After the initial design was likely painted onto the cliff face, workers would have erected a complex system of scaffolding and wooden platforms, allowing access to the upper reaches. The first stage was blocking out, using heavy tools to remove massive sections of unwanted rock and create the rough silhouette of the facade. As the form emerged, finer tools took over, defining the columns, carving the statues of mythological figures, and incising the intricate floral and geometric details that make the surface seem to shimmer in the desert light. Inside, the single chamber is surprisingly modest, but it holds an acoustic secret. The shape of the carved interior, the composition of the sandstone, and the soaring height create a remarkable resonance. A single spoken word can echo and amplify, giving a ceremonial or oracular power to any voice within. This profound sonic characteristic fuels the enduring mystery of its purpose. Was Al-Kosneh a royal tomb, as its popular name suggests, or was it a temple dedicated to a Nabatean deity? The lack of internal burial niches and its prominent, theatrical placement at the end of a narrow gorge argue for a public, ritual function. To grasp the sheer audacity of this project, imagine being tasked with carving a detailed, museum-quality scale model of a Greek temple from a single, solid block of wood. Now imagine that block is a mountain, your tools are simple iron chisels and hammers, and you must do it all while suspended on ropes and wooden planks, starting at the very top and working your way down, with no blueprints to consult other than the vision in your mind. The desert environment adds another layer of awe. In this arid landscape where every resource is precious, the Nabateans invested generations of labor and artistry, not in practical irrigation alone, but in this monumental act of beauty. It stands as a defiant statement that even in the harshest conditions, human creativity insists on a permanent, breathtaking expression. As the sun sets and paints the treasury in deep crimson and gold, one question lingers with the fading light. If this magnificent facade was merely the first impression, the grand entrance to a city carved from stone, what other levels of artistry, what other chambers of forgotten purpose might still lie hidden within the silent, rose-red heart of the cliffs? Deep beneath the sands of Abydos, a different kind of Egyptian mystery waits in the dark. The Osireion is a sunken sanctuary, an architectural ghost that feels profoundly out of place. While officially linked to the great pharaoh Seti I and his magnificent temple complex above, its very stones tell a contradictory story. To step down into its central chamber is to leave the world of detailed hieroglyphs and enter a realm of raw cyclopean power. The structure is essentially a central island of solid stone, surrounded by a deep, water-filled trench, all constructed from colossal blocks of red granite. The scale and style are shockingly familiar, yet they belong to a different chapter of history. These are not the refined, decorated blocks of the New Kingdom. They are massive, unadorned, and brutally simple, bearing a striking and undeniable resemblance to the foundational masonry at the Valley Temple of Giza, thousands of years older. This is architecture that speaks the language of giants, not of pharaohs. The great Egyptologist Flinders Petrie, who excavated the site, was deeply puzzled. He concluded it seemed to be a building from a vastly earlier time, one that Seti I had simply cleared out and adopted for his own purposes. The precision of its construction supports this jarring timeline. The granite was quarried in Aswan, over 100 miles to the south, a feat of logistics matching the pyramid builders. The blocks are fitted together with the same meticulous, mortarless joints seen at Giza. But here, the design is stripped down to its essential geometric form. The central hall is flanked by 17 monolithic side chambers, each roofed with gigantic lintel stones weighing up to 100 tons. The entire complex was clearly designed to be permanently filled with water, fed by a subterranean channel connected to the Nile. This was not a temple built and then accidentally flooded. It was a temple designed from the beginning to be submerged, an island sanctuary rising from a symbolic primordial sea. This brings us to its haunting purpose. The Osireion is widely considered a symbolic tomb of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, resurrection, and the fertile Nile flood. In myth, Osiris was slain and his body parts scattered across Egypt. Abydos was believed to be the location of his head. The perpetually water-filled trench surrounding the central island would have represented the Nun, the dark, watery chaos from which all life emerged. The central platform, therefore, was the first land, the mound of creation. To stand here during a ritual would have been to stand at the very moment of the world's beginning and at the threshold of rebirth. The reflective waters would have mirrored the star-studded sky above, blending the celestial and the subterranean into one continuous sacred space. Priests performing rites here were enacting the cycle of death and renewal at the most fundamental level, using architecture and hydrology as their script. So we are left with the profound question that Petra sensed over a century ago. Is the Osireion a rare, surviving relic of a pre-dynastic Sphinx-era building tradition? Its architectural fingerprints point directly to that remote epoch, a time of megalithic precision that later pharaohs revered but could not replicate. Perhaps Seti I, in building his own temple above, discovered this ancient, sunken power place and deliberately incorporated it, understanding that its primal authority far exceeded anything his own artisans could construct. He was not building a new shrine, but restoring a connection to a source of power so old it had become myth. The Osireion stands as a bridge between two Egypts, the refined kingdom of recorded history and the shadowy, monumental world that preceded it, forever holding its secrets beneath the still, dark water. The Siberian wilderness holds a secret that makes even the mightiest monuments seem almost delicate. In the remote mountains of Gornaya, Shoria, lies a scene of staggering, chaotic scale, a mountain of stone seemingly torn apart by a force beyond comprehension. Here, explorers have found a sprawling field of granite blocks, not merely large but of a mass that defies belief. Some of these stones are estimated to weigh over 3,000 tons. To grasp that weight, picture a solid granite block the size of a modest two-story house. Now imagine trying to lift it. The largest mobile cranes in the world today would struggle, requiring perfect ground conditions and a meticulously engineered support system. Yet in this inaccessible Siberian landscape, such blocks appear stacked and scattered in a bewildering, haphazard pile, as if a giant's game of dice had ended in cataclysm. The immediate, overwhelming question is not who built this, but what could have possibly moved it. The site sits in a region with no known history of a civilization capable of such feats, no legends of giants, no trace of the quarries or roads such a project would demand. This isolation amplifies the mystery to an almost deafening silence. Geologists who have visited are deeply divided. One camp argues persuasively for a spectacular natural origin. Granite, under immense tectonic pressure and repeated cycles of freezing and thawing over eons, can fracture along straight lines. The intense natural forces in this mountain region could have, through a perfect storm of conditions, created this field of shattered, block-like rubble. It would be a 1 in a million geological coincidence, but not an impossibility. The other camp points to details that unsettle the natural explanation. Among the jumble are stones with surfaces that appear flat and smooth, meeting at distinct, sharp right angles. Some researchers report finding surfaces with parallel linear grooves or patterns that resemble tool marks, though these claims are hotly debated. Even more intriguing are the accounts of unusual magnetic anomalies in certain stones, where compasses behave erratically. While natural mineral deposits can cause this, it adds another layer of peculiarity to an already bizarre sight. To understand the energy involved, consider the simple act of attempting to shift one of these blocks just an inch. Moving 3,000 tons of granite, even on a perfectly level steel track, requires overcoming immense friction. Power needed is colossal, far beyond any human or animal team. It suggests forces of a different magnitude entirely, perhaps the very geological upheavals that shaped the mountains themselves. This leads to a haunting and profound reflection. When we look at this chaotic mountain of stone, are we seeing the ruins of something unimaginably old? Could these be the shattered remains of a megalithic construction from a forgotten epoch, torn apart and scattered by a prehistoric global cataclysm, a real-world event that passed into legend as a great flood or a fire from the sky? Or is the human mind so conditioned to see intention in straight lines and right angles, being tricked by a masterpiece of natural chaos, a sculpture carved by time, ice, and earthquake that simply looks too perfect to be random? Gornaya Shoria offers no clear answers, only a visceral, humbling confrontation with scale and time. It stands as a stark reminder that our planet is capable of creating wonders that mirror our greatest works, and that sometimes the line between a natural monument and a lost one is the thinnest crack in a 3,000-ton stone. High on the Altiplano, where the air is thin and the sky feels close enough to touch, the stones of Tiwanaku speak a language of impossible angles. While the famous Gateway of the Sun captures the imagination, the true testament to this culture's mastery lies in the monumental walls of the Sacsayhuamán temple. Here, sandstone blocks, some surpassing 100 tons, are assembled with a quiet, terrifying precision. The surfaces are not merely flat, they are geometrically perfect planes meeting at crisp, unwavering right angles. To achieve this on stone of such hardness, with the simple tools we attribute to the Tiwanaku people, seems to defy the very nature of the material. Yet the evidence is set in stone, a silent rebuke to our assumptions about ancient capability. The builders employed a technique that connects them to distant shores, using complex eye-shaped copper clamps to bind these giants together. This was not a simple tie, it was a feat of foresight and engineering. Before two blocks could ever be moved into position, channels had to be carved with absolute precision into the facing surfaces of each one. These grooves had to match perfectly in depth, width, and alignment so that when the stones were finally brought together, the molten copper could be poured into the combined cavity, creating a metal ligament that locked them as one. A single miscalculation by a fraction of an inch would render the entire clamp useless. This implies a level of planning and quality control we associate with modern manufacturing, not with a pre-industrial society working at an altitude of over 12,000 feet. The purpose of such effort becomes clearer when you step back and see the site not as a collection of ruins but as a machine for tracking time. The Sacsayhuamán is precisely oriented to the cardinal directions. Its walls create precise sight lines for the equinoxes and solstices. On the morning of the September equinox, the sun rises directly through the center of the temple's eastern gateway, casting a beam of light that illuminates specific points in the interior courtyard. This was no accident. It was a built-in calendar, an astronomical observatory carved from stone. Some researchers, like Arthur Posnansky, studied these alignments meticulously and proposed a startling theory. They suggested that the original layout of Tiwanaku was designed to match the sky as it appeared not 2,000 years ago, but over 17,000 years in the past, encoding a forgotten epoch of human history in its geometry. Whether one accepts that vast timeline or not, the alignment is undeniable proof of a sophisticated cosmic understanding. This leads us to the landscape itself and a transformative clue. Today, Tiwanaku sits miles from the shore of Lake Titicaca, but geological studies show the lake was once vastly larger. In the distant past, these monumental structures would have stood at the water's edge, or even on a peninsula surrounded by the deep blue waters of the high-altitude sea. This changes everything. It transforms Tiwanaku from a remote highland ceremonial center into a likely port, a hub of culture and commerce for a civilization that mastered both lake and land. Could this have been the source of its knowledge? A culture that navigated the vast waters of ancient Titicaca would have needed advanced skills in astronomy for wayfinding, in geometry for constructing large reed boats or even stone wharves, and in logistics for moving goods and people. The precision stonework, then, might be the terrestrial signature of a maritime people, their port city built to last an eternity even after the waters receded. As you stand before the immaculate joints of the Kalasasaya, feeling the immense age in the stone, a quiet question takes shape. Are we looking at the root of Andean civilization itself? Could the knowledge perfected here in this ancient lakeside metropolis have diffused outward over centuries, influencing the techniques and cosmic vision of every culture that followed, from the coast to the cloud forests, culminating in the wonders we have already witnessed? The stones do not say, but their perfect alignment to the sun and their forgotten alignment to a vanished sea suggest a world far more connected and far more knowing than our histories have dared to record. While the Great Pyramid commands the skyline, its smaller neighbor guards a secret of equal weight beneath the sand. The Valley Temple of Menkaure is a fortress of red granite, a statement of power carved from a stone that defies the tool. Its core is built from colossal blocks quarried in Aswan, over 500 miles upriver, with some monoliths approaching 220 tons. To move such a mass, even a single inch requires a force that echoes through history. The logistical ballet begins with the Nile itself. Egyptologists believe these granite giants were loaded onto enormous barges during the annual inundation, when the swollen river reached its highest point, bringing the water closest to the edge of the Giza plateau. Timing was everything. A miscalculation of weeks could leave a barge carrying a 200-ton block stranded in the mud, a monument to failed ambition. Once unloaded at a temporary canal or harbor, the real trial began, dragging the stone up the permanent incline to the temple site using sledges, levers, and the raw power of hundreds of coordinated workers. The sound must have been a constant, low thunder of effort, but the true marvel is not just the movement, it is the final placement. Step inside the temple's core. The walls are lined with massive, meticulously dressed slabs of this same red granite, creating a somber, resonant space meant for the final rituals of the king's journey. The precision of the jointing is inhumanly perfect. The seams between these multi-ton panels are so tight that, as experts note, not even a grain of dust can find passage. Examine a single corner where 3 or 4 of these behemoths meet. Their edges are sharp, their faces are flawlessly planar, and they converge without a single millimeter of error, creating a geometric perfection that feels machined. This presents a profound puzzle. Granite is exponentially harder than the local limestone used for the pyramid cores. To cut it, to shape it, to achieve this glassy smooth finish and these perfect joints with the simple copper saws and abrasive sand we believe they used would have been a task of almost unimaginable patience and skill. It would be like trying to carve a detailed sculpture out of a car engine block using only a piece of string and some sand. The material itself fights you at every step. So why here? Why commit to this back-breaking, time-consuming precision with the most stubborn stone on earth for this specific temple? The answer may lie in its purpose and its symbolism. This temple was the final earthly stop in the king's mortuary cult, the place where his body was purified and prepared for its ascent. Granite, sourced from the far southern reaches of the kingdom, was not just durable, it was sacred. Its red hue could symbolize the life-giving blood of the land or the fiery power of the sun god Ra. Its incredible hardness represented eternity itself, an indestructible vessel for the king's legacy. But could there have been a functional reason as well? Some researchers have noted the peculiar acoustic and even subtle vibrational properties of granite chambers. In this space of transformation, where chants and rituals would echo off the hard, polished walls, the stone itself may have been chosen to amplify and contain a sacred energy, to make the space resonate with a power that softer limestone could not hold. The Valley Temple of Menkaure, therefore, is not a lesser monument. It is a concentrated expression of the same obsessive drive for perfection, applied to a material that tested the absolute limits of 4th Dynasty engineering. It asks us quietly, which is the greater feat, to build high with limestone or to build forever with stone that fights back. The silence of a tomb is not always empty. Beneath the sun-baked streets of modern Malta lies a different world, a realm of shadow and echo carved by hand from the living rock. The Hypogeum of Sacsayhuamán is a descent into the Neolithic mind, a 3-story labyrinth excavated over 1,000 years, beginning around 3600 BC. This is not a natural cave system. It is architecture in reverse, a temple complex painstakingly hollowed from soft Globigerina limestone using only stone, bone, and antler tools. Its builders removed an estimated 2,000 tons of rock, bucket by bucket, in near total darkness, guided by the flickering light of simple oil lamps. The scale of this generational labor is almost beyond comprehension, a project that would have defined the purpose of an entire community for centuries. But the true wonder is not the removal, it is what was left behind. The Hypogeum is a precise mirror. Its chambers perfectly mimic the megalithic temples that stand above ground on the Maltese islands. As you move through its eerie stillness, you pass through trilithon doorways, identical to those at sites like Giza above Gantaja. You look up at ceilings carved in the precise corbelled technique, where each stone layer steps inward until it meets at a point, replicating the vaults of surface temples. The walls are adorned with painted spirals in red ochre, a sacred symbol found throughout the islands. This was not merely a burial place, it was a deliberate, inverted duplicate of the world of the living, a sacred reflection built for the ancestors. The craftsmanship is breathtaking in its subtlety. The walls are smoothed to a soft, almost organic finish. Niches and shelves are carved with clean, deliberate lines. In one of the deepest chambers, known as the Holy of Holies, a facade is sculpted to resemble the entrance of a typical Maltese temple, complete with a false door that leads nowhere, a powerful symbol of the threshold between worlds. But the Hypogeum holds another secret, one you can feel in your bones before you hear it. This is the oracle chamber. Its architecture is designed for sound. A deep male voice spoken or chanted into a specific niche in this small, oval room does not simply echo. It amplifies. The sound vibrates through the stone, resonating at a low frequency that can be felt throughout the entire upper level of the complex. Archaeologists and acoustic engineers who have studied the phenomenon confirm it is not an accident. The shape of the chamber, the curvature of the walls, and the specific density of the limestone were all carefully manipulated to create this effect. In the flickering lamplight of a ceremony, a voice emanating from this chamber would have seemed to come from the earth itself, a disembodied oracle speaking with the authority of the underworld. This profound understanding of acoustics points to a ritual purpose far beyond simple interment. The discovery of the remains of thousands of individuals within the Hypogeum suggests it served as a collective resting place, a sacred ossuary where the community's ancestors were gathered over generations. The careful placement of bones and the evidence of continued veneration indicate this was an active sanctuary, a place where the living would descend to commune with those who had passed, to seek guidance, and to reinforce the cycles of life and death through sound and ceremony. To stand in the silent, resonant dark today is to feel the weight of that devotion. What chants, what prayers, what names were spoken into that stone to make the very earth hum in response? What knowledge of vibration and resonance, of the power of sound to shape consciousness, did these Neolithic builders encode into this underground sanctuary? The Hypogeum offers no written record, only the architecture itself, a perfect echo of a world above that has crumbled, while its shadow below remains, holding its breath and its ancient song. A perfect sphere of stone waits in the jungle soil. Across the Diquis Delta of Costa Rica, hundreds of these enigmatic orbs lie scattered, some resting on the surface, others hidden just beneath the roots of ancient trees. They range in size from a small handheld ball to colossal spheres over 6 feet in diameter, weighing more than 16 tons. Their material is gabbro, a hard, dense volcanic rock that resists simple carving. Yet their surfaces are unnaturally smooth, and their shapes approach a geometric perfection that feels out of place in the wild landscape. To run your hand over one is to feel a profound contradiction, the organic chaos of the rainforest meeting an object of pure, abstract form. The immediate, pressing question is how? How do you achieve such flawless roundness with only stone tools? Archaeologists who have studied the spheres suggest a method of relentless patience. Artisans likely selected a suitable boulder and then used smaller, harder stones to peck away at its surface, gradually knocking off large fragments. Once a rough spherical shape was achieved, the grinding began. Using sand and water as an abrasive, they would have painstakingly rubbed the sphere against another large stone or rolled it continuously on a bed of abrasive material, smoothing every imperfection over what could have been generations of work. This was not a quick project. It was a long-term investment in form, a cultural obsession with the sphere as an ideal, but the mystery deepens beyond their creation to their placement. Many of these spheres were not left randomly. They have been found arranged in geometric patterns, often in alignments pointing north-south, or grouped in sets that mirror celestial constellations. Some were positioned at the entrances to important dwellings or burial sites, acting as silent guardians or markers of authority. This suggests a purpose far more complex than mere decoration. Were they astronomical markers, helping a society without written language track the solstices or the movements of planets? Could they have been symbols of power and status, where the size and perfection of a family's sphere denoted their social rank? Or were they territorial boundaries, sacred objects that define the space between communities with a weight more permanent than any fence? The process of making even a single, modest sphere reveals a sophisticated mind. To shape a sphere freehand without modern measuring devices requires an innate and advanced understanding of symmetry and balance. The artisan must constantly assess the form from every angle, removing material evenly to maintain the curve. It is a three-dimensional puzzle where the only solution is perfect equilibrium. This points to a culture that valued and deeply understood fundamental geometric principles, encoding them in the most durable medium they knew. So we are left with these silent, perfect objects in the jungle. Why would a society invest such immense, generational effort into creating objects of pure geometry, leaving behind no grand temples or written explanations, only these orbs? Perhaps the sphere itself was the answer. It is the shape of celestial bodies, the sun and the moon. It is a shape with no beginning and no end, symbolizing eternity and unity. In a world of uncertainty, the perfect sphere may have represented an ideal of cosmic order, a tangible piece of harmony that could be touched and moved but never broken. What system of belief or measurement did they represent? We may never decipher their full meaning, but their silent, round presence continues to roll a question through time, asking us what we consider truly valuable enough to carve into eternity. The jungle conceals more than it reveals. In the highlands of West Java, Indonesia, Gunung Padang rises not as a ruin, but as a living hill, its slopes terraced with thousands of columnar basalt stones arranged with unmistakable intention. To the untrained eye, it looks like a natural outcrop overgrown with trees and grass, but walk its 5 ascending terraces and you feel the geometry beneath your feet. The stones are not scattered, they are laid in walls forming corridors, chambers, and retaining structures that contour the entire hillside. This is not a building placed upon the land. This is the land itself, reshaped into architecture. The surface alone is a puzzle, but the true mystery lies in what might be hidden below. In the early 2010s, a multidisciplinary research team led by geologist Danny Hillman Natawajoja began a series of investigations using ground-penetrating radar, seismic tomography, and core drilling. What they reported sent shockwaves through the world of archaeology. The data suggested Gunung Padang is not a simple hill with some stones on top. It appears to be a massive, layered construction. The surveys indicated deep, hollow chambers, large cavities filled with loose material, and multiple layers of built structures buried under the soil, descending over 100 feet down to bedrock. The team took soil samples from deep within these cores for carbon dating. Organic material retrieved from layers far below the surface yielded astonishing dates, some suggesting human activity or construction phases could stretch back over 20,000 years. If validated, this would place Gunung Padang not just as an old site, but as potentially the oldest pyramid-like structure on Earth, built by a sophisticated culture during the last ice age. This claim is understandably the center of a fierce scientific controversy. Mainstream archaeologists urge extreme caution. They point out that the columnar basalt is a natural geological formation, a result of volcanic lava cooling and cracking into these distinctive pillar-like shapes. The arrangement on the upper terraces, skeptics argue, could be the work of a much later society, perhaps from only a few thousand years ago, who simply collected and arranged the readily available stones. They question the interpretation of the subsurface scans, suggesting the anomalies could be natural fractures or pockets in the volcanic rock, not built chambers. The debate hinges on a fundamental question: are we seeing the deliberate, multi-generational work of a lost civilization? Or are we projecting a grand narrative onto a fascinating but ultimately natural and later modified hillside? To understand the precision argument, look closely at the upper terraces. The basalt columns, though naturally formed, are not randomly piled. They are stacked in careful rows, fitted together to create stable, vertical walls and defined spaces. Some columns have been deliberately shaped, their ends flattened or notched to allow for tighter fitting. The layout shows a clear understanding of geometry and structural support, creating platforms that have resisted earthquakes and monsoons for millennia. The carbon dating from the deep cores remains the most provocative piece of evidence. The dates, if correct for construction layers and not just for older soil that was later used as fill, suggest a timeline that completely upends our understanding of Southeast Asian prehistory. Imagine for a moment the hill not as it is but as it might have been. Picture a colossal stepped pyramid, its terraces faced with dark geometric stone rising from the lush valley. Its true scale has been softened by millennia of erosion, soil accumulation, and the relentless embrace of the jungle, turning a monument into a mountain. This vision forces a profound and humbling reflection. If even a fraction of these claims are true, What does Gunung Padang mean for our story? Does it point to a forgotten epoch of human achievement, a sophisticated culture in this region that mastered large-scale construction while much of the world was still in the grip of the Ice Age? The site does not offer easy answers, only a deep, resonant possibility buried in stone and soil, waiting for the next chapter of discovery to be written. The earth beneath Cappadocia holds a different kind of precision, carved not for the heavens but for enduring the storms of history. Derinkuyu is not a temple or a tomb. It is a fortress turned inward, a labyrinth of survival chiseled from the soft, workable volcanic rock known as tuff. This is not a single shelter, but a vertical city descending 18 levels, 280 feet into the absolute dark, capable of sheltering up to 20,000 people for months at a time. Its genius lies not in ornamentation, but in a flawless, functional engineering designed for one purpose: to preserve life against any threat from the world above. Every corridor, every chamber, every air shaft was a calculated answer to the problems of underground existence. To carve a stable structure downward, you must understand the rock itself. The architects of Derinkuyu demonstrated a profound knowledge of load-bearing. They left thick pillars of untouched stone at regular intervals to support the immense weight of the ceilings above, preventing collapse across multiple subterranean stories. Passages were carved with rounded corners and arches, distributing stress more evenly than sharp angles would. This was architecture in negative space, where what you removed was as important as what you left behind. The city unfolded over centuries, likely beginning in the Hittite era around 2000 BC and expanding through Byzantine times. Each generation added new layers, new quarters, new storage pits, yet always respecting the original structural logic. The result is an organized hive. There were living quarters stacked like apartments, communal kitchens with carved hearths and ventilation chimneys, wineries and oil presses, stables for livestock, and even dedicated spaces for worship and education. A sophisticated network of tunnels, some miles long, connected Derinkuyu to other underground cities in the region, creating an entire hidden country beneath the Anatolian plain. But the true masterstrokes are the systems that made this buried world livable. Consider the ventilation shafts. These are not random holes. They were engineered with precise, consistent angles, drilled diagonally from the deepest chambers all the way to concealed surface openings. This created a passive air circulation system, where cooler, fresh air would sink down one shaft while warmer, stale air would rise and exit through another, providing a constant, life-giving breath to the furthest depths without ever revealing the city's location. Then there are the doors. Each level could be isolated by a massive, circular stone wheel, often over 5 feet in diameter and a foot thick. These monolithic plugs were set into carved grooves and could be rolled into place from the inside, sealing the community off from invasion, smoke, or flooding. Moving such a stone required leverage and coordination, but once set, it became an impassable barrier. This leads to a quiet, powerful reflection. What profound collective motivation drives an entire society to invest generations of labor, not in reaching for the sky, but in perfecting a retreat into the earth? The effort here is on par with any pyramid. The precision, though applied to a different goal, is no less remarkable. It speaks to a resilience born of necessity, a deep understanding that survival sometimes requires disappearing. Derinkuyu represents the pinnacle of defensive engineering, a monument to communal foresight carved in darkness, reminding us that ancient genius was not always expressed in what they built up, but in what they built down and how perfectly they could vanish within it. A single, catastrophic crack ended a dream of stone. In the granite quarries of Aswan, the unfinished obelisk lies as a fossilized ambition, a 1,200-ton giant forever sleeping in its bed of pink granite. 137 feet long, it is the largest known obelisk ever attempted, a monument that would have dwarfed any other in Egypt. Its sides are already carved with remarkable precision, defining the elegant taper from base to pyramidion, yet its bottom remains fused to the living bedrock. It is not a ruin, but a paused process, a moment of supreme effort frozen in time. To stand beside it is to witness the very moment the ancient builder's ambition met an immovable flaw in the earth. Egyptologists like Mark Lehner have detailed the meticulous method visible here. Teams of workers used balls of dolerite, a stone even harder than granite, to painstakingly pound trenches around the intended shape. Each swing of the hammerstone would have produced a small shower of granite dust and tiny chips. The progress was agonizingly slow, perhaps only inches per day. You can still see the rhythmic, parallel grooves left by countless strikes, a testament to the relentless, grinding labor required just to define the form. The precision of these trenches, cut straight and true along the intended lines, shows this was not haphazard work. It was a controlled, skilled operation following a master plan. But defining the shape was only the first, smallest part of the challenge. The next steps boggle the mind. Once the trenches were deep enough, workers would have had to tunnel underneath the entire 1,200-ton mass to separate it from the bedrock, likely using wooden beams and levers to hold the space. Then the true logistical nightmare would begin, moving it. The intended destination was almost certainly the great temple complex at Carnac, over 140 miles down the Nile. This would have required sliding the Colossus to the riverbank, loading it onto a specially built, reinforced barge during the high flood, sailing it to Thebes, unloading it, and then dragging it to the temple precinct. Finally, the most dangerous act of all, erecting it. Using ramps of sand and earth, teams would have inched the obelisk upward until it stood vertical on its base, a process where a single slipped rope or a leaning mass could mean disaster and loss of life on a terrible scale. The entire endeavor represents the absolute peak of pharaonic ambition, a statement of power written in the most permanent material they knew, and then the crack appeared. A deep, fatal flaw running through the beautiful pink stone. The obelisk was abandoned, left as a permanent lesson in the quarry. This leads us to a quiet, reflective question that hangs over the silent granite. Was this merely an engineering failure, a random flaw in the stone that defeated the best-laid plans, or does this monolithic fragment symbolize something deeper? In a culture where the pharaoh was a god-king whose will was believed to command the very forces of nature, does this uncarved giant represent a rare, humbling limit? A moment where the stone itself, the bones of the earth, said no. It stands not as a monument to what they built, but to what they dared to attempt, a silent testament to the breathtaking line between human ambition and the unforgiving nature of the material world. The conical towers of Sardinia rise like stone sentinels from a lost age. Scattered across the island are over 7,000 of these structures called nurag, each one a masterpiece of balance built without a single drop of mortar. They are the work of the Nuragic civilization, a Bronze Age society that flourished between 1900 and 730 BC, and their architectural signature is a question carved in basalt. To understand their achievement, we must step inside a complex like Su Nuraxi di Barumini. It is not a single tower but a stone hive. A central keep, often 2 or even 3 stories tall, is surrounded by a labyrinth of interconnected bastions, circular huts, and winding passageways, all enclosed within a formidable defensive wall. This was not a solitary building, it was a fortified community center, a nucleus of social and perhaps spiritual life. The true genius, however, is overhead. Look up inside the central tower. The ceiling is a perfect dome, but it is not built with arches or a keystone. It is created through a technique called corbelling. The builders would lay a circle of large, flat stones, On top of that, they would lay another circle, but each stone would be placed slightly inward, overhanging the one below. Layer by patient layer, the circle would grow smaller and smaller, stepping inward until the final stones could cap the opening at the top. The result is a soaring, beehive-shaped vault, all achieved through gravity and geometry, with no internal support holding it up. This is an act of profound static precision. The weight of every stone is precisely transferred down through the corbelled rings to the massive walls below. A single miscalculation in the angle or size of a block, and the entire vault would collapse under its own weight. Yet these towers have stood for over 3,000 years, surviving earthquakes and the slow erosion of time. This corbelling technique connects Sardinia to distant shores, echoing in the tholos tombs of Mycenaean Greece and the Brochs of ancient Scotland, suggesting a shared thread of megalithic knowledge across the Bronze Age Mediterranean and Atlantic. The construction method itself, known as dry stone walling, was deceptively simple in concept yet demanded immense skill. Builders would have selected dense basalt blocks from local quarries, shaping them roughly with stone hammers to create flat faces. The walls are thick, often with a rubble core between two finely fitted outer faces. The blocks are not uniform, each one a unique piece in a three-dimensional puzzle, locked in place by the friction and interlocking shapes of its neighbors. The sheer number of these towers, over 7,000, speaks to a complex and highly organized society. This was not the work of scattered villages. It implies a coordinated culture with specialized stonemasons, surveyors, and a social hierarchy capable of mobilizing labor for projects that could take generations. The Nyorag were strategically placed, often on hilltops with commanding views of the coastline or fertile plains, suggesting a role in territorial control and communication. Around them, archaeologists have found sophisticated water management systems with well temples and sacred springs, indicating a deep reverence for and understanding of this vital resource. The culture also built mysterious gallery tombs known as giants' graves, long communal resting places fronted by towering stone stele. To grasp the delicate process, picture the building of a single vault. Teams of workers would have erected a temporary internal mound of earth and stones to support the corbelling as it rose. Standing on this ever-shrinking platform, they would carefully test the placement of each multi-ton block, a precarious dance of trial and error conducted dozens of feet in the air. Once the capstone was set, the earthen fill would be dug out from below, leaving the empty, awe-inspiring chamber. It was a moment of truth where the entire structure either held its breath and stood or succumbed to gravity. The fact that so many held firm is a testament to a knowledge passed down through centuries of practice, so we are left with the silent, conical towers. What was their ultimate purpose? The evidence points to a multifunctional role. Their defensive capabilities are obvious, yet many show signs of ritual use, with central hearths and finds of bronze votive offerings. Their alignment with celestial events has also been proposed, suggesting they could have served as crude but effective astronomical markers. This blend of fortress, temple, and community hall makes the Nyoragic civilization uniquely enigmatic. And this leads to the final quiet mystery. After a millennium of flourishing and building with such distinctive precision, why did this tradition fade away? There was no single violent invasion recorded. Instead, the culture seems to have gradually transformed, influenced by Phoenician traders and later Carthaginian settlers. The Nyorag fell out of use not as ruins of war, but as monuments to a way of life that slowly evolved into something new. Their silent, enduring forms ask us what endures when a civilization's purpose shifts, and what remains when the last builder who understood the precise angle of a corbelled stone is gone. A submerged world waited beneath a Chinese village for centuries. The Longyu Caves are 24 caverns of staggering scale, discovered only in 1992 when farmers pumped out a local pond and found not a natural hole but a staircase carved with absolute geometric intent. This is not a cave system. It is an underground palace complex entirely artificial, spanning over 30,000 square meters of excavated space. To walk inside is to enter a realm of impossible uniformity. Every surface, from the soaring ceilings to the vast walls and the massive supporting pillars, is covered in a dense pattern of parallel chisel marks. These are not random strikes. They follow a precise, repeating pattern, a kind of industrial signature carved at a consistent 60-degree angle across thousands upon thousands of square feet of solid sandstone. The effect is hypnotic, a testament to a single, obsessive methodology applied without deviation. The sheer volume of removed material is a mountain in itself, an estimated 1 million cubic meters of stone. That is equivalent to carving out the entire Great Pyramid of Giza and then carving out another half of one. Yet this titanic effort left behind no written record, no oral tradition, not a single historical document that mentions the decades, perhaps centuries, of labor required to create it. The silence is as profound as the space itself. The precision here is of a different character than the fitted stones of a pyramid. This is the precision of systematic excavation. Engineers who have studied the caves note the pillars are not decorative. They are integral structural components, strategically placed at calculated intervals to support the immense weight of the ceiling above. This reveals an advanced, practical knowledge of rock mechanics and load distribution. The builders understood exactly how much stone they could remove before the mountain would collapse in on itself, and they placed their supports accordingly from the very beginning. Look at how a pillar meets a wall. It is not a separate piece slotted in. The pillar is carved from the same living rock as the wall, its surface continuing the same unbroken pattern of tool marks. This means the entire chamber, with all its architectural features, was planned as a single, cohesive design before the first chisel struck. The builders were not digging and then deciding where to put supports. They were revealing a pre-visualized form from within the stone. This leads to the central, haunting mystery of purpose. Why create this? The most mundane theory suggests it was a massive quarry, that the sandstone was extracted for some grand surface project that has since vanished. Yet the care taken with the walls, the beautiful, consistent tooling, and the creation of staircases and uniform pillars argue against a simple mining operation. Why beautify a mine? Another idea points to imperial tombs or hidden ceremonial spaces, perhaps for a ruler or a sect that demanded absolute secrecy. The caves do possess an undeniable solemnity, a cathedral-like atmosphere that suggests ritual use. Then there is the sophisticated drainage system. Despite being submerged when discovered, the caves were engineered to stay dry. Channels were carved along the floors and into the pillars to direct any seepage into sump pits, proving the builders intended the spaces to be occupied, not flooded. This was a prepared, maintained environment, so we stand in these vast, empty halls surrounded by the echo of millions of precise hammer strikes who commanded this labor. What authority could mobilize the workforce to spend generations carving out a mountain, only to abandon it and erase all memory of its creation? The complete historical silence is perhaps the most precise cut of all. It suggests not a gradual forgetting, but a deliberate act of cultural amnesia. Was the knowledge too dangerous? Was the project a failure or a secret so profound it had to be buried not in stone, but in time itself? The Longyou caves offer no inscriptions, no artifacts, only the overwhelming evidence of the work. They are a monument to a question, a perfect, empty space where history should be, leaving us to wonder what truths are so fragile they must be hidden in plain sight, beneath the quiet waters of a forgotten pond. The inner circle of Stonehenge whispers a secret carried from a distant land. While the towering sarsen stones form its famous silhouette, the smaller blue stones hold a more intimate mystery of precision and pilgrimage. These stones, a mix of spotted dolerite and rhyolite, each weighing up to 4 tons, did not come from the local plains. Their geological fingerprint points unequivocally to the Preseli Hills in Wales, a journey of over 140 miles across some of Britain's most challenging terrain. This was not a simple relocation of convenient boulders. It was a deliberate, generational quest to bring specific stones from a specific sacred landscape to this sacred plain. Geologists like Richard Bevins have used advanced petrography to pinpoint the exact outcrops, quarries at Carn Godog and Craig Rose y Felin, where the stones were precisely extracted. At these sites, researchers found not just tool marks, but evidence of a sophisticated quarrying technique. The builders used natural vertical fissures in the rock, then hammered in wooden wedges and soaked them with water to make them expand, cleanly splitting the pillars from the bedrock with an efficiency that feels almost modern. This initial act of removal was itself a feat of precise knowledge, understanding the stone's grain and fracture points. Once freed, the stones faced an odyssey. The conventional theory paints a picture of heroic logistics. Teams would have used a combination of wooden sledges, rollers, and ropes to drag the massive pillars down to the waterways of the Welsh coast. From there, they might have been loaded onto rafts or crewed boats for a perilous coastal and river journey, skirting the stormy Irish Sea, then up the River Avon before a final overland haul to Salisbury Plain. This hypothetical route represents a monumental coordination of labor, timing with seasons and tides, and a staggering investment of community effort spanning decades. Yet, this epic journey is the heart of a fierce academic debate. Some geologists argue that glaciers during the last ice age could have transported these bluestones naturally, depositing them much closer to Salisbury Plain. If true, the Neolithic builders would have simply collected locally available but still foreign stones. However, the precision evidence at the quarries themselves, the clear human tool marks, and the lack of matching glacial debris in the area strongly supports the human transport theory. The stones were chosen, not merely found. This leads to the profound question of why. Why undertake such an unimaginable effort? The shaping of the bluestones at Stonehenge provides a clue. While not as elaborately worked as the Sarsens, many were carefully dressed and shaped. Some even feature precise mortise and tenon joints, a carpentry technique in stone, proving they were meant to fit securely into a larger design. This technical precision, however, may be secondary to a deeper spiritual precision. The Preseli Hills were not just a quarry, they were a numinous landscape, a place of ancient springs and ritual significance. By bringing stones from this powerful, distant source, the builders were physically transporting a piece of that sanctity. They were merging the sacred geographies of two distant parts of their world into one cosmic center. The act of the journey itself, this epic communal pilgrimage with stone, may have been a ritual of transformation. Each mile dragged, each river crossed, imbued the stones with greater power and meaning. The final arrangement at Stonehenge, then, is not just an astronomical calculator or a temple. It is a monument to that journey, a permanent testament to a society's belief that some truths are so important they must be carved from a distant mountain and walked across a continent, a perfect fusion of logistical precision and sacred intent. High in the Ethiopian highlands, faith did not build upward, it excavated downward. The rock-hewn churches of Lalibela are not structures placed upon the earth, they are the earth itself, sculpted into vessels for prayer. In the 12th century, King Lalibela envisioned a new Jerusalem, a sacred pilgrimage site that would stand as a testament to divine inspiration. The result was not a city of towers, but a silent, sunken revelation, 11 monolithic churches carved directly from the living volcanic rock. To approach them is to witness a landscape that has been reimagined, where the ground opens up to reveal perfect forms hidden within. The most iconic of these is Betel-Georgis, the Church of St. George. From above, you see a perfect Greek cross, 30 by 30 feet, standing at the bottom of a deep, square pit. It is not built, it is revealed, a freestanding block of stone isolated within its own perfect courtyard, accessible only by a narrow tunnel carved through the surrounding rock. This is architecture in its purest, most daring form, a sculpture where the entire mountain was the raw material. The method of creation is a breathtaking exercise in faith and foresight. The master architects did not start from the ground. They began their work at the top of the plateau, outlining the entire complex shape of the church on the flat rock surface. Then, with nothing but hand tools, teams of workers began the monumental task of carving downward. They removed everything that was not the church. For over 40 feet, they chiseled away the rock, painstakingly defining the outer walls, the roof, and the deep courtyard that would isolate the structure. The precision required was absolute, for this was a process with no room for major error. You could not add stone back. Every strike was a permanent subtraction from a form that existed only in the mind of the planner. As they descended, they had to simultaneously envision and carve the intricate interior spaces, the columns, the arches, and the altars, all while still surrounded by solid rock. They could not see the final, awe-inspiring form until the very last pieces of debris were cleared away. It was an act of creation through removal, a profound belief that the perfect church was already present within the stone, waiting only to be uncovered. This top-down construction demanded solutions to practical challenges that still impress engineers today. The most critical of these was water. Carving such deep pits created a giant catchment area for rainfall. The builders ingeniously integrated a sophisticated drainage system into their design. They carved channels and trenches that directed water away from the church foundations and into a natural aquifer, ensuring the structures would not flood and erode. Inside, the level of detail is astonishing. The interiors are not rough caves, they are meticulously finished spaces. Columns are smooth and symmetrical, ceilings are carved with geometric patterns, and windows are framed with precise crosses, allowing slanted beams of light to cut through the incense-filled air. The walls of some churches are adorned with beautiful, centuries-old frescoes, their colors preserved in the stable, cool environment of the stone. This is not primitive excavation, it is the highest form of devotional craftsmanship. What makes Lalibela truly unique, however, is not just its origin, but its uninterrupted life. This is not a dead ruin, but a living sanctuary. For over 800 years, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has maintained continuous worship here. Priests in white robes chant ancient hymns, the sound echoing off the stone walls that were shaped to amplify such devotion. Pilgrims travel great distances to pray in these subterranean spaces, touching the same walls worn smooth by generations of the faithful. The architecture itself is part of the liturgy, with tunnels and passageways symbolizing the journey between earthly and spiritual realms. This continuity of use means the precision of Lalibela was not an end, but a beginning, a perfect vessel that has been filled with living tradition for centuries. To stand in the pit surrounding Betel-Georgis is to feel the weight of a singular vision. One can almost hear the relentless sound of countless chisels, the patient, generational work of revealing a shape held firmly in the mind of a master builder and a pious king. This leads us to a quiet reflection, uplifted by the very stone around us. Does Lalibela represent the glorious peak of a unique African architectural tradition? One where faith and geology were fused with a divine and practical precision. It stands apart from the pyramids and the megalithic walls, not as a tomb or a fortress, but as a permanent home for an enduring spirit. Here, precision served not to defy time, but to create a timeless space within it, a sanctuary carved not just from rock, but from the very sky above it, a perfect hollow in the world made sacred by the hands that dared to remove everything else. The horizon was its starting line. On the eastern coast of India, the Sun Temple of Carnac rises from the sands as a stone chariot frozen in mid-journey, built in the 13th century to carry the sun god Shoria across the sky. Even in its partially ruined state, the scale is staggering, a symphony of megalithic ambition played with the delicate precision of a master jeweler. The entire temple complex is conceived as a colossal chariot with 24 intricately carved stone wheels, each over 10 feet in diameter, and drawn by a team of 7 mighty stone horses, forever straining against the dawn. This was not just a building inspired by a myth, it was an architectural reenactment, a permanent ritual set in condylite stone. To stand before it is to witness a civilization's entire world. You crystallized into a single, breathtaking structure where the boundary between a place of worship and a cosmic machine dissolves completely. The precision here operates on 2 inseparable levels, the monumental and the microscopic. The wheels themselves are feats of engineering, massive stone discs that bear the weight of the temple's symbolism and structure. Yet each one is a universe of detail. The spokes are not simple rods, they are elegantly sculpted, and the hubs are adorned with exquisite floral and geometric patterns. Art historians and archaeologists have long studied a remarkable function hidden in this artistry. Each wheel is a sophisticated sundial. The 8 major spokes divide the day into precise 3-hour periods, while the smaller spokes and carvings allow for even finer timekeeping as shadows move across the detailed surfaces. The temple was aligned with such care that the first rays of the rising sun would stream through the main entrance, illuminating the inner sanctum, and the wheels would begin their silent, shadowy measurement of the sun's passage. This was a temple that did not just honor time, it actively tracked it, its very architecture serving as a functional astronomical instrument. Such ambition demanded engineering solutions as bold as the vision. The temple's original form was even more towering, capped by a massive central spire that once dominated the coastline. To achieve this height and span the vast interior spaces without internal pillars, the builders employed a radical technique for their time: immense iron beams. These beams, some weighing tons, were embedded within the stone lattice to provide crucial tensile strength, acting as a hidden skeleton. Centuries of exposure to the salty coastal air caused these iron supports to rust and expand, a tragic irony where the temple's own structural innovation ultimately contributed to its partial collapse. This leads to one of Carnac's most enduring legends, the story of a powerful lodestone, or magnet, placed at the apex of the main tower. Historical accounts suggest this magnet was so strong it could disrupt the compasses of ships sailing along the coast, and it may have even played a role in stabilizing the entire stone edifice. While the magnet itself is long gone, the legend speaks to the temple's reputation as a place of mysterious, almost physical power, where the forces of the earth were harnessed in service of the celestial. Every inch of the remaining structure is a carved narrative. The walls are a dense tapestry of life, depicting deities, dancers, musicians, and scenes of courtly procession. Among these are the famous erotic sculptures, which have been the subject of much interpretation. Scholars note that within the temple's overall symbolic program, these figures are not merely decorative. They are integrated into a holistic vision of creation, fertility, and the celebration of worldly and spiritual union, representing the boundless, generative energy of the sun itself. To view them solely through a modern lens is to miss their intended place in a complex theological and artistic schema. The story of Carnac, however, ends in silence and sand. The temple was eventually abandoned, and the great sanctum was filled with rubble, perhaps to protect it or to symbolically entomb its power. The reasons are debated: shifting sands, structural instability from the corroding iron, or perhaps changing political tides. Yet its legacy is not one of ruin, but of revelation. To examine a single wheel is to understand the entire philosophy. Here is a block of stone weighing several tons, shaped into a perfect circle, engineered to bear immense load, carved with astronomical utility, and adorned with art of the highest order. It is art, science, architecture, and prayer fused into one object, so as the sun continues to rise over the stone chariot that will never roll, we are left to turn the final question with its wheels. Was Carnac the ultimate expression of a culture that refused to compartmentalize human genius? In this one site, the sculptor, the astronomer, the engineer, and the priest worked from the same divine blueprint, creating a monument where beauty was functional, where devotion was measurable, and where stone was taught to tell the time of the gods. What does it say about us when we look upon such a place and feel compelled to label it as either a temple or an instrument, when for its builders it was so clearly and so perfectly both? Our journey ends not with an ancient certainty but with a modern question. In the heart of Bosnia and Herzegovina, the town of Visoko is surrounded by a series of strikingly symmetrical hills. One in particular catches the eye with its 4 triangular faces meeting at a distinct ridgeline. This is what researcher Semir Osmanagic has named the Pyramid of the Sun, and he proposes it is not a hill at all, but the largest and oldest pyramid on Earth, constructed by a lost civilization over 12,000 years ago. This claim ignites the most heated debate in our entire exploration, a direct confrontation between passionate independent investigation and the established protocols of mainstream science. The evidence presented is compelling on the surface. Osmanagic and his team point to exposed sections of the hillside where they have uncovered what appear to be massive, shaped stone blocks fitted together. They show samples of a concrete-like material they believe is ancient conglomerate, a man-made binding agent. They have mapped extensive underground tunnel networks, known as ravni, which they have cleared of debris, revealing smooth walls and mysterious monoliths. Most strikingly, they cite satellite and ground-penetrating radar imagery that suggests geometric anomalies and potential chambers deep within the structures. For many, this is a thrilling narrative, the discovery of a forgotten European pyramid culture that rewrites history. It speaks directly to the sense of wonder that has guided our tour of 24 other sites, the desire to find grand, hidden patterns in the past. Yet, the response from the broader scientific community has been one of nearly uniform skepticism. Geologists from institutions across Europe have conducted their own examinations. Their consensus is that these hills are natural formations, a product of sedimentary layering and tectonic uplift common in the region. The block-like structures, they argue, are the result of fracturing in the conglomerate bedrock, a perfectly normal geological process that can create astonishingly regular shapes. The so-called concrete, they state, is a natural breccia, a type of rock composed of angular fragments cemented together by natural mineral deposits. The tunnels, while intriguing, are seen as either natural fissures or medieval mining operations, unrelated to any pyramid construction. The archaeological establishment views the project with deep concern, labeling it as pseudo-archaeology. Their criticism is twofold. First, they argue the methodology is flawed, starting with a conclusion and interpreting all data to fit it, rather than letting evidence guide the inquiry. Second, and more gravely, they point out that the hill of Visočica is actually the site of a genuine and important medieval Bosnian fortress. The extensive digging and earth moving conducted by the pyramid project, they contend, has caused irreversible damage to these authentic historical layers in the pursuit of a speculative theory. This creates a poignant and illustrative conflict. On one side, the romantic, sweeping vision of a lost world, a story that captures the public imagination and draws thousands of visitors. On the other, the meticulous, often slow and unglamorous process of peer-reviewed verification, where extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence and every layer of context must be preserved. This final site, therefore, holds up a mirror to us, the seekers of these mysteries. After traveling from Giza to Gunung Padang, from the Moai to Malta, we arrive at a fundamental question that underlies our entire fascination. How do we balance our open-minded wonder, our hunger for lost knowledge and impossible precision, with the necessary discipline of critical scrutiny? It is a tension between the heart that wants to believe in hidden grandeur and the mind that demands rigorous proof. The Bosnian pyramids, whether ultimately proven to be a natural wonder or a human one, serve as a powerful reminder that the pursuit of the past is not just about finding answers. It is about learning how to ask the right questions and understanding that sometimes the most profound mystery is discerning the line between a world we wish existed and the one the evidence actually reveals. Our tour of 25 structures is complete, but the analysis, the debate, and the wonder are truly just beginning. A map of our journey reveals a web of impossible geometry spanning the globe. From the Andes to Anatolia, from the Pacific Islands to the plains of Europe, the same fingerprints appear on stones separated by oceans and millennia. This is not a coincidence of style, it is a chorus of technique. We see polygonal masonry, where irregular blocks fit together like three-dimensional puzzles, in both the Cyclopean walls of Sacsayhuamán and the foundational layers of Mycenae in Greece. We witness the same obsession with celestial alignment, from the solstice gates of Tiwanaku to the wheeled sundials of Carnac. The movement of 100-ton stones over impossible distances echoes from the mountains of Ollantaytambo to the plains of Baalbek. Even specific solutions repeat, like the eye-shaped metal clamps found binding granite at the Osireion in Egypt and andesite at Puma Punku in Bolivia, a detail too precise to be independently invented time and again. These parallels form the core of the great debate. One school of thought, championed by researchers like Graham Hancock, looks at this web and sees the shadow of a lost source. They propose a forgotten mother culture, an advanced maritime civilization of the last ice age, whose survivors scattered after a cataclysm and seeded this knowledge of megalithic science across the world. In this view, the similar techniques are not independent inventions, but heirlooms from a common, shattered homeland. It is a narrative of diffusion from a single, sophisticated point of origin, a golden age erased by rising seas and shifting crust. The evidence, they argue, is in the stones themselves, a shared architectural language spoken by cultures that should have had no contact. Yet mainstream archaeology offers a different, more grounded interpretation. It points to the concept of independent invention. When faced with the universal challenge of moving and shaping immense weight, human ingenuity, no matter where it blooms, will converge on similar optimal solutions. A polygonal wall is simply the most earthquake-resistant way to build with giant stones. Aligning a monument to the sun or stars is a logical act for any agricultural society that depends on seasonal cycles. The use of clamps is an obvious engineering solution for stabilizing massive blocks. From this perspective, the threads are not evidence of contact, but proof of a shared human genius when confronted with universal physical and spiritual problems. Different cultures in isolation simply arrived at the same brilliant answers. There is also the profound spiritual imperative to consider. For many of these societies, stone was not just a building material, it was a conduit to eternity. To build with perfect precision was to create a permanent anchor in the flow of time, a dialogue with the ancestors and the gods that would last forever. The geometric perfection was not merely structural, it was sacred, a reflection of a perceived cosmic order. This drive for permanence and symbolic perfection could independently inspire remarkably similar approaches to stonework, from the obsessive roundness of the Costa Rican spheres to the flawless right angles of the Valley Temple. Then there are the more speculative yet persistent threads of forgotten technology. The accounts of strange acoustics in chambers like the Hypogeum, the legend of the levitating stone at Coral Castle, and the peculiar tool marks that seem to suggest cutting or polishing methods beyond simple pounding. This has led to theories of lost sciences, perhaps involving the manipulation of sound vibration or even the mass of the stones themselves. Could there have been an archaic understanding of resonance, frequency, or gravity that we are only beginning to rediscover? When you compare a drill hole in Egyptian granite to one in Bolivian andesite, the similarity in precision is haunting, begging the question of what tool or what knowledge could achieve such a thing in two different hemispheres. Perhaps the most unifying concept is a global Stone Age mindset. Before the age of steel and industrial machinery, humanity's most intimate and durable relationship was with rock. The mastery of stone was the pinnacle of technology and art. In this long epoch, certain geometric truths, the strength of the triangle, the stability of interlocking shapes, the symbolism of the circle, and the cardinal directions were discovered and revered universally. This was not a single culture, but a shared phase of human development where the most ambitious projects naturally took a megalithic form. So we stand before this tapestry of global precision, the final and most important question now taking shape. Do these undeniable threads represent the scattered chapters of a single, forgotten book? Or are they the magnificent, independent verses of the same human poem, written in stone by cultures who never met, but who all looked up at the same stars and dreamed of building something that would outlast them? The answer you lean toward will reshape not just your view of these 25 sites, but your entire understanding of the depth and connection of our ancient world. The echoes from these 25 stones form a single, resonant question across time. We have walked the silent courtyards of Lalibela, gazed up at the impossible angles of Giza, and felt the chilling geometry of the Longyou caves. The key takeaway from this global tour is not a neat solution, but a magnificent, enduring puzzle. These structures defy our simplest stories of linear advancement. They suggest that human knowledge does not move in a straight, upward line, but in great, rolling waves with peaks that can be reached, forgotten, and then glimpsed again centuries later as ruins we struggle to explain. Consider the sheer generational willpower. Each of these sites represents a societal decision of staggering commitment. A community or an entire culture chose to invest its greatest resources, its food, its labor, its brightest minds, not in immediate survival alone, but in a project meant to outlast the sun and the moon. This was not casual construction. It was a covenant with eternity, written in the most permanent language they knew. The sophisticated understanding on display is humbling. We see advanced mathematics encoded in proportions, a deep astronomy that tracked celestial cycles with stone, and a physics that understood load, balance, and resonance in ways we are only beginning to appreciate with our own instruments. Whether these are the masterworks of dedicated ancient artisans working within their time, the inherited projects of cultures building upon far older foundations, or evidence of a science we have yet to name, the conclusion is the same. They stand as permanent monuments to the outer limits of human potential. They prove that our ancestors were not primitive but profoundly capable, their vision fixed on horizons we are still learning to see. Let this journey be a reminder that history is not a closed book with all its answers neatly printed. It is a vast library, and many of its most fascinating volumes are missing pages, written in scripts we have yet to fully decipher. The official narrative is a framework, but the stones themselves are the primary evidence, and they whisper of deeper, more complex stories. So what do we do with this magnificent mystery? It invites us to look at the world with new eyes, to see a familiar landscape not as a finished picture, but as a palimpsest with older layers of intention waiting beneath the surface. It encourages us to question, to wonder, and to continue the search with both open minds and critical thinking. The pursuit is the point. We want to hear your voice in this ongoing conversation. Which of these 25 structures captivated your imagination the most? Was it the solitary defiance of Coral Castle, the submerged enigma of Yonaguni, or the cosmic chariot of Carnac? What theory about their creation feels most plausible to you as you reflect on all the evidence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you crave more journeys into the hidden chapters of our shared past, subscribe and tap the notification bell. Our exploration of the world's deepest mysteries has only just begun. The stones themselves are silent, but their message is not lost. It is waiting, patient and immense for anyone who pauses, looks closer, and dares to listen.